Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Super Soldier Talk. My name is James Rink, for those of you who don't know. Right now we're just live streaming onto Facebook because this information tonight is way too hot for YouTube. So I didn't even want to even worry about, oh, Jimmy, you can't say that. Don't say it. Lauren, don't say that. So we're going to have free reign tonight to say whatever we want to say, because this eventually will go on Rumble. Hello, Rumble audience. Okay, so how is everybody doing today? How about you, Lauren? How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And Jimmy, Officer Jimmy, how are you doing? Oh, you muted yourself. Let's see here. There you
go. Real good, James.
Okay, great. So I've got, for those of you out there who are wondering what we're going to be discussing today, we're going to be discussing about CERN. In case those of you who didn't know, CERN is recently going to be turning on the April 8th. So apparently it takes a couple weeks to turn the thing on. So that's kind of an interesting synchronicity. It's like, is that a really coincidence? We're going to go into that. We're also going to go into some of the Mandela effects, because every time they turn that thing on, there's everybody, a lot of people in my network all report Mandela effects. So, and then we have an update about the New York earthquake and a little report from the Real Raw News about the Red Hats. And I've got a report about the Marburg virus and some of these virus outbreaks. Sacrifice of the red heifer. So I know, Jimmy, you have some information on that, and a high altitude EMP attack. So let's begin with everybody's bios. So Lauren is a international renowned psychic with a 90% accuracy rate and was used by world leaders for protection detail, predictions, and analysis. She has met Trump, Trudeau, and Obama, and quite a few others. So you can contact her, shoot her a message. The information is in the description. So Super Soldier Agent Jimmy Paine. He was also known as Dallas, was a Men in Black secret space program in the secret space program from 1959 to 1996. During this time, he was a shuttlecraft pilot for the Tall White Warriors at Area 51 and participated in time travel missions with the Montauk Boys at Camp Hero. He also recalls for working for Weyland Corporation, which he encountered a xenomorph at LV-426, which the movie Aliens was based off of. He was stationed on Mars, Titan, the Moon. On Mars, he had seen a broken statue of the giant face of a humanoid on a mission in 1974, along with Duncan O'Finoian. He remembers seeing Tommyknockers in a cave on Mars, which are muscular type of grays, tall grays. On the moon of Titan, he was stationed at a massive underground base. He was tasked with fighting a monster they called It. It looked like a junior Montauk monster, a type of Bigfoot monster that would gain strength by attacking it. He was also on a secret mission from Vandenberg Air Force Base. And isn't that where they were, you would go back in time, right? From those, SR-71s, Jimmy, from Vandenberg? You would take pictures like the Civil War or Revolutionary War. Jimmy, is that right?
That was the U-2 plane.
Oh, the U-2. So from Beals Air Force Base.
Yes.
Okay, so Vandenberg. Well, Ralph. So that was when you were on the Lunar 20 mission, Apollo 20 mission. So that was with William Rutledge, and there's actually footage of the humanoid-looking EB Mona Lisa that is on YouTube, where you can see what the beam that you located on the moon looked like. Okay, guys. So let's go on here. Maybe the first update. How about, I know, Jimmy, since I guess this was your idea, so we'll just let you start first. So tell us how about you give us a little update on what's going on with CERN? What is CERN? Yeah.
Okay, well, what's going on right now with CERN is it takes about 2 weeks just to warm up the machine. It's done very gradually. And it also consumes a tremendous amount of electricity. But what's going on is, because we're going to have an eclipse, we have the Earth, the moon, and the sun going into alignment. Now, a simple way to try to break this down. Now, we all know the moon can affect the tides, make the tide go in and come out. So, because CERN, what CERN is doing, they're using the gravitational effects of the planet's alignment to give it some more, to see if it can speed up the particles going around the collider. And they're also have, down in Texas, there was a gentleman that sowed some red heifers, some cattle, and of course, to sell cattle and take them out of the United States and ship them all the way to across, overseas to Israel, you have to go through USDA and get permits for all this. And what they've done, they built a stage within sight of Dome of the Rock. And they're going to burn these cattle to death, sacrifice them. So we have that going on, and we have nobody, none of our politicians or animal rights experts are saying one word about this brutality to these poor animals. And so we have that going on. We also have the Devil's Comet that is out in space, and we have that going on. We have NASA also is going to shoot up 2 or 3 rockets and fire them off into space. So we got a lot of activity going on, and it's going to start tomorrow, the alignment.
Oh wow. So how about we start with the red heifer? So what can Jimmy, what can you tell us about the actual ritual? What was it based on? And yeah, what for those of us who don't know.
Well, I'm not an expert on that religion, but apparently they're going to burn these cattle to death for a sacrifice. And you don't hear a word out of the United Nations or any of these organizations from around the world. And what's really scary is Israel has nuclear weapons, and we have a superpower who's practicing a form of religion that's very barbaric. And if they burn cattle to death, they wouldn't hesitate to fire off a nuclear missile. So I consider Israel to be, very concerning right now, James. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, thank you. So I was doing some pulling up some information here, and I probably should share the site instead of reading it to you. But the problem is every time you go on these news sites, there's like all these pop-ups and ads, and it's just like it gives you like a headache. Just actually, like it gives you anxiety if you just look at it. I mean, I guess they need to make money, but anyway, so let's see here. So it looks like they are doing this because they want to rebuild the temple, right? The Jewish temple, right? That once stood in Jerusalem, and to beckon the Jewish Messiah, right? So the thing is here, here with the red cow. So they're not allowed to have any other color. It has to be red. You can't have any black or white hair. So apparently it took years. That's what they're all saying here. If you were to read this real quick, I'm just getting through it, guys. Okay. So yeah. So they're just talking about how they want to rebuild the temple, and But so tell us, do you think this is going to mark in the second coming of Christ and the rebuilding of the temple? Or Jimmy, what do you think about that?
James, because when I grew up at Area 51, everyone, particularly men in black, have dual religions. All right. And I was born Roman Catholic. However, when you have an extraterrestrial experience, it shatters your belief in your religion. So, being that I was such a young child at 5, I took the religion of the Native American Paiute, and that is considered the religion of the savage. So it's hard for me to judge the Jewish faith because I don't know that much about it. But I do feel, like I said, the United States, we're dealing with a nuclear power in the Middle East. And for them to be burning cattle to death, that is very, very frightening, because most wars do start over religion.
Certainly, and it would destabilize the region. How about we bring Lauren into this? Lauren, maybe you could give us some insight. So, if you were to analyze the situation, do you think this is something that, I hate to say, God wants, right? I mean, if you were part of that Jewish religion.
Oh, well, my perspective goes back very far in history. I've studied a lot of galactic history as well, and I think it's relevant in this instance to understand the global situation and what's going on with that particular event, as well as them doing that type of sacrifice. It's my belief that this is the Anunnaki doing this, and it's also related to what's going on April 8th and CERN. Basically, what the Anunnaki want to do is a type of blood sacrifice that's supposed to impact the U.S., in particular, Texas as a location. So I do believe that there's people alive on the planet right now that are under the impression that who they consider to be their God, that they want this to happen. I don't share those beliefs whatsoever, however.
Okay. Well, looking down the timeline, so let's just say that this task was completed, right? Do you think do you actually see a temple being rebuilt and war in the Middle East, or what do you think would happen as a result of doing that action?
I think that there's a lot of people alive today that would like to see that happen, and that they would usher in a world religion, Chrislam, and that everyone would just, be worshiping that. I know that there's a lot of people that absolutely want that. Again, those are not my beliefs, and I don't share that opinion or anything like that, but I am aware that that's what they want. Yes.
So we'll see like a rise of an antichrist.
I sincerely believe so. Yes, I think that's absolutely what they want to do. I think it's part of a greater agenda that's, again, related to the Anunnaki. In particular, 2 individuals, Enki and Enlil, whom I consider both to be galactic criminals that did the illegal hybridization of humanity a very long time ago, and whose children and offspring are here right now that are also the followers of these religions, that are following what Yahweh and, Enki, or whoever he wants to call himself, that they're following what they've been told. And that it's just not pro-human whatsoever. And it's very diabolical as far as I'm concerned in a lot of these agendas. So
years ago, I had somebody contact me, and he said he remote viewed the alternate timeline where Hillary Clinton became president. That horrible timeline. So basically, there was a rise of an antichrist, and when he tried to remote view it, just viewing it, people became like entranced. Almost, it almost seemed like there was some kind of AI component or aspect. Since I already brought it up, maybe you should just go ahead and tell us. The people that since we can talk about it now that took that medical procedure, I might as well say it, the vaccine took that thing. I mean, there were so many psychics making reports that like half of them are going to die or 90% of them are going to eventually die. But we really haven't. I mean, we only see maybe like maybe 3 million people die from it. So in the United States. So what do you think about that?
Well, when it comes to the Antichrist, I do believe that it's most likely Yahweh, aka Enlil. That their entire plan since, going back a few thousand years has been to rule over humanity with an iron fist. They wanted to, enslave humanity and have everyone under mind control utilizing nanotechnology, and just have everybody hooked up to the Borg hive mind and have them be subservient to the malevolent extraterrestrials that are also responsible for the galactic slave trade, not just on this planet, but outwards in the greater galaxy that go back to the wars on Lyra. So I absolutely believe that that is their full intention to do that. And they want to enslave humanity. They want to take away humanity's sovereignty and free will and freedom of thought and, human rights and, just everything. And they want to rule here on the planet's surface openly and have humanity worship them. And they also want to turn everyone into a gray alien or something akin to that. That's what I believe. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Let's bring Jimmy on here. So, Jimmy, do you have any thoughts about the Anunnaki? Do you feel like they're good, bad, or probably they are just what they are? Self-serving like most species out there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I can tell you from being around the royal family. I knew Princess Diana. Now, I was not romantically involved with her, but because I, did work with German intelligence, she was very concerned about MI5, MI6, watching her. So she had found out about me, and she requested me if I would deliver messages for her on the side. And so I know what I know about the royal family is through her. Now, the queen is a reptilian, and I've seen her shape shift, but because I could remote view and channel in my younger years, I channeled up some spirits and reptilian spirits, and through through Arizona Wilder, both of us did. And the thing is that when these extraterrestrials do not have souls, now when the extraterrestrial dies, it dies. But if it can get a hybrid, part human, part reptilian, see, when we die, our spirit, we have a spirit, an orb, and we live on after we're dead. So that's what's going on. They want to live, so they want to interbreed with us, and so we're under occupation right now, James. But I don't necessarily dislike reptilians. It's just certain types of reptilians that can be problematic, and that is the royal family of England. We have a royal member over here right now in the States, and that's by no mistake. And they never got over losing their 13 colonies. And what they're waiting for is social unrest, a civil war to break out. And the only thing they want is their 13 colonies back. The rest of the country can burn down.
Yeah, but Jimmy, there are so many other colonies that are no longer part of the crown, right? So, yeah. So why are they still holding a grudge? Does that mean they want all of them back? It's not just the colonies here in the U.S.
Well, I'm sure that when the Queen Elizabeth died, there's a power struggle going on right now within the royal family. So it could very well be other colonies that's involved, but they don't have a prince in their country. We have a prince here. We fought a revolutionary war for our freedoms, yet we have a prince walking around within the United States. And I don't have anything against Prince Harry, but I do think that he should not be given access to our bases. And what concerns me is the flow of money that's coming in to his charities now, because he is a royal member. He's part of the royal family. He doesn't have to pay taxes. So you're going to tell 315 million people that you're required to pay taxes, but you got one guy that's walking around that doesn't have to pay taxes because he's royal. So when I think of white privilege, I think of the royal family. I don't think of the average a European, American European as being white privilege. I do think the royal family is white privilege, and it looks bad for us, the United States. So he needs to be encouraged to go home, and he's not American.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. So how about this? Maybe Lauren, could you tell us, why do you think Prince Harry is really here in the USA? Don't they have his own country to take care of? So what do you think about that?
It's probably a type of, sheltering thing that he's seeking or something. He probably feels like more safe here for whatever reason. If there's contention over there, he's probably trying to, check on his alliances and just kind of hide out, most likely.
So you see him, basically he got into an argument with the side of the family over there, just wanted out, probably.
That's very plausible. That's very probable. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you feel like he's got a more benevolent or neutral undertone? Him in general, his personality?
No.
No, what?
No, I don't think that he's benevolent. No.
Okay. All right. So could you give us an idea? What do you think maybe his future plans are here in the United States? What is he intending?
Most likely to stay for longer than people think. Again, it's for a sheltering practice type of thing. So just seeking refuge, most likely.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Okay. So I guess we can go to maybe the next topic. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say about that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I want to say this. I think it's more than just sheltering. Now, he's been Justin. What's the young guy's name we was talking about the other day? Justin Bieber.
Bieber?
No, the black guy, the Ditto.
P. Diddy.
Yeah, Pete Diddy. Now, my understanding is that Pete Diddy has been running a sex ring, and Harry and Meghan has been getting on his plane and flying around. And what Pete Diddy's been doing is been filming people having sex, and for blackmail purposes. And so, we had a lot of problems with Epstein, but he seems to be taking the place of Epstein, But I find it very unusual for Harry and Meghan to be getting on the plane and being tied up with that and the blackmailing, and because we have politicians that can be caught in compromise, and so I just feel if he wants to go somewhere, go to Africa. He likes Africa. He's been over there several times. Prince Harry has. And he can do more for the wildlife over there than rather stay here. But I have nothing against him personally. I like Princess Diana, but still, take a walk through some of our national cemeteries, and you'll see Revolutionary soldiers that's died. And it just, to me, it is too controversial to keep him here. He needs to go, and he's got work to do abroad. He doesn't belong here.
All right, thank you. So let's go on to the next topic we have tonight. So let's see here. How about we really kind of maybe touched on CERN some. So you worked at CERN at a version of a super collider at Brookhaven, right? Right, Jimmy?
I've been in Brookhaven, but that's when Preston Nichols got a contract through Diamond Defense Electronics. My primary was down at Camp Hero, do with the time travel. And, but see, Brookhaven was providing us with the power. We have underground cables running from Brookhaven to Camp Hero. In the old days, we generated our own electricity through diesel generators. But when Brookhaven came on, we just more or less piggybacked off of their power source.
So there's those underground tunnels that go between the two on Long Island.
There's tunnels all under Long Island, James, that are not on the map. I know of several. I do not want to give the locations out, but you'd be surprised what's underneath the ground at on Long Island. Particularly, there's a base under the base of Camp Hero. Now the old base of Camp Heroes was rather shallow. This new base goes down maybe a half of a mile. So, of course, the top part's abandoned, but there's just a lot underneath the ground.
So you're saying it's definitely still active in the here and now?
Yes, not the antenna. The antenna is not active. Now, I want to say something else before we go any further. Who may be listening tonight, please don't go to the park at Camp Hero. There were some children down there just recently, and the pet dog brought a leg back in his mouth, and they got the law down there, and they found a couple of bodies cut up. So there is a serial killer on Long Island, and they're cutting people up and burying them. And you also have to remember we have a lot of homeless shelters with undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens in those facilities. And so, but please don't go looking around Camp Hero. Now's not the time.
Lauren, can you actually confirm that, remote view it, and see see who this character is? Is it one person or?
I could, yes. One particular individual, male, middle-aged.
Middle-aged. What skin color?
I'd say Caucasian.
Okay. And what is his occupation and his day job, if he has one?
Most likely something very kinesthetic, like hands-on, potentially like a mechanic, also picking up that he has some fighting capacity.
Nice.
I'm also picking up that he will most likely be captured.
Good.
Mhm.
Could we accelerate the timeline? Maybe get him captured maybe next week.
If people want to help out with that, they have it to intend for, the highest outcome for all benevolent beings, and that person be, captured, so no one else will be harmed.
Can you interpret how many bodies he killed? Yeah, took out.
At least a few dozen.
Okay. Well, Jimmy, we'll follow your advice and stay out of the Camp Hero park area for the time being, or definitely have a partner with you at the same time. Okay, so let's see here. I wanted to ask. Let's see. We were talking about the super collider, and Jimmy, what kind of effects did you notice? I mean, so that what they're saying, they're trying to recreate the particle, right? But what was the actual reason they're spending billions of dollars on these things?
Well, first, I was there when the God particle was discovered. I was down in the tunnel, and what I witnessed was an electronic image. Have you ever cut on an old TV and you saw snow on it? It's just static. Well, that's what I was seeing. It was basically just an outline of a humanoid, but it was electrical, and it seemed to be energized. And I talked to it briefly, but it never got very far from the tube, the accelerator. So what we have is these astral beings, and what it's doing, they want to come through. It's sort of like a teleporter, they want to come on through, but every time they fire this collider up, we get beings that come through the portal. Now, when I was at Camp Hero, we had to go out and capture the New Jersey Devil. That came through. Then we had several animals that fell onto the beach. I think everybody's heard the Montauk monster. It was a bird, had a beak. I was there when that happened.
So that creature came out of the portal?
Yes.
Do they know anything about its whereabouts, or what? What was it? Violent or vicious or what?
Well, that was the baby. That it was basically a prehistoric, a reptilian bird. It was just basically a prehistoric from back when the dinosaurs. Now I had a full grown one that came through the portal, and we shot. It was shot. It was getting ready to hit me in my back with its beak, and they shot it because they were scared it may start flying inside the Camp Hero.
Okay, so this creature, wow, and so how did it actually escape the facility and get out on the surface level?
You mean that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That one fell out of the sky.
Oh, wow. It was already alive was it alive when it landed?
That I couldn't tell you, James. I just know that it fell it had to be as high as the antenna. but it fell and it may have drowned it. We get a lot of stuff like that, stuff coming through the portal. But you have to remember, Camp Heroes time machine is nowhere near the size of CERN's.
So you're saying that potentially something, maybe like a Godzilla creature, could come out of it. That sounds like
James,
maybe a movie. They could make a movie out of that.
whatever could come through, it's kind of like the orifice is so large, a light could come through it. Now, Camp Hero, when we would fire up the machine, it looked like a little tornado. And they like to get the boys, young boys, because, we're not full grown and we could jump into it easier than a full grown man. And, but this one at CERN is huge.
So they don't need children necessarily anymore.
No, they don't need children.
Well, that's a good thing. Wait, well, okay. How about this? Maybe Lauren, maybe could you tap into it and see what kind of creatures or beings are coming through that portal? I guess that portal being, I don't know, the one at Brookhaven, the big one.
Well, I do know that a lot of the malevolent ETs are doing that type of experimentation, specifically to create a dimensional rift to the lower astral realms to let in these other entities, which is also why there's effects on the timeline after they've been activated. It's because it's causing a type of rupture, and it's actually impacting the universe that people happen to find themselves in. They're doing this to lower the state of consciousness on the entire planet, as well as get people possessed and potentially killed and injured. And when they open portals to lower realms like that, those souls are in those realms for a reason, because karmically that's absolutely where they deserve to be. But because the malevolent extraterrestrials are trying to harm humanity in every way potentially that they can, they're building these portals, and they're just like activating them on specific parts of the planet, particularly the 33rd degree parallel. That's on the same point of like the Earth's core, which is actually where the maximum amount of damage could be done, which is actually why they're doing that.
Okay, Jimmy, what do you think about that? Entities, demons, creatures, astral beings coming out from a lower dimension, affecting us.
Yes, it's true. The danger of it is this. A lot of these creatures they view us as a food source. Okay. That they need adrenochrome. I've seen that so many times where they torture a human, fright them to death, and they take the blood, and it's just like cocaine to them. If you look at Jesus Christ, they wanted Jesus to suffer on the cross because they wanted adrenochrome. Okay. And they want humans on their knees. And the average human, they're going to view these creatures as some kind of a god. They're not gods. So we need to get off of our knees, and we're being occupied. We're being terraformed. That's all it is to it. And if you look at the Mayans, go back in history, where the Mayans would sacrifice one of their own. There's not much difference between then and what's going on now. We just do it in a very um, subtle way, but it's still going on now. It's going on right now.
Okay, Jimmy, let me pull this up here. So since we're not on the YouTube now, we can share. Okay. Now didn't. Oh, come on. Load up. I'm gonna try this one more time. Hopefully this time it'll show. Okay, let me try this. I'm sorry, guys. Let me do this. No, we're not. This thing is not working right now. Okay, I'm gonna share my notes just temporarily. Okay, no. I'm gonna try this again. Hold on. This thing is coming. There we go. Enter the red hats. Real raw news. Okay, so I know Lauren and I we were talking about this, and Lauren, you were confirming that this is probably real, right? Correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically about the earthquake in New York. So they found 150 FEMA agents in the area, the epicenter. So this article, okay, how about this? Let me just read it instead of telling you. All right. A decentralized coalition of active duty and reservists calling themselves the Red Hats had claimed responsibility for the anomalous 4.8 magnitude earthquake that rocked the tri-state area early Friday morning, a source in General Eric M. Smith's office told Real Raw News. Saturday afternoon, General Smith received at his home address a letter supposedly authored by a former protege of Berger, General David Berger, Smith's predecessor. So the White Hats are withholding the name until they can verify the writer's identities and claims. The contacts are straightforward. Obama and Biden's people, the deep state, are not responsible for Friday's earthquake. We are. Who are we? You've embraced a nickname coined by civilians, White Hats, a color that symbolizes nobility and purity. You could think of us as Red Hats, a color symbolizing strength and blood and war. Blood for blood. We have no quarrel with you. In fact, we fight for the same outcome. The annihilation of corrupt, perverted, elected, and appointed officials that started fucking up this country the day Clinton was swarming into office. You and I, General Smith, are gladiatorial warriors, and we have diametrically opposed ideologies. But we have diametrically opposed ideologies. Your forerunner sat idly by as an election got stolen under his nose, and you, referring to Trump, and you who have picked up the mantle and your friend at Guantanamo Bay lack the wherewithal to do what must be done swiftly, efficiently. If you can't do the job, we will. You're my brother. Oh, no. This happens all the time. Okay, sorry. Problem solved. Okay. You're my brother in arms, and we won't impede your progress if you don't interfere with ours. If we resolve business before you do, let it be. In either case, justice, constitutional justice, will be served. Know this, my friend, we are fewer in number, but we lack in numbers, we have in determination. And we are all around you. And I ask you to unite with us because I know not enough of you know that you're gritting your teeth while reading this. Now let me explain why we acted. And maybe you understand. The author, without providing evidence, claimed that Deep State had recently constructed a Hadron Collider, like CERN's 27-kilometer ring particle accelerator in New Jersey, and planned to use it to open up a portal to a dimension bursting with malevolent apparitions whose power the Deep State sought. It doesn't matter. The collider does what they think it could. It was dangerous and had to be destroyed. They had secretly finished it mere miles from where President Trump and his family spent so much time. It was not a coincidence. It was a message. On my orders, my people infiltrated the underground complex, located the device, deployed the necessary ordnance, and destroyed it before the Deep State could bring it online. The letter ended. The author signed the letter symbolically. Colonel Walter Kurtz, the main antagonist of Francis Ford Coppola's 1979 film Apocalypse Now, which is based on Joseph Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness. Below his name, the author put a bloody thumbprint and postscript saying, "No war is won without collateral damage." In addition to the letter, the envelope held photographs of U.S. Army Rangers who had been sent to investigate the earthquake as they were surveilling the FEMA and ATF agents. While we were watching them, someone else was watching us, our source said. Obviously, the person who sent the letter isn't named Kurtz, but the letter passes a smell test. The guy we're talking about is just as dangerous and dedicated. General Smith does not condone these methods, so as he added, has canceled all leave and recalled assets. No comment further. Okay. Who wants to comment first? Anybody?
I'd like to say a few things about that letter. I find it interesting they're talking about Kurtz and Apocalypse Now. And that movie is based off of the man that I served with in Laos. And I've been to the temple. And when we were trying to make a documentary about it, it didn't turn out that way. So I find it interesting that somebody would reach back and start talking about Apocalypse Now. So I don't think we're dealing with someone that's a ranger, because people that have been to war don't normally talk about war. And this individual who wrote the letter is referring to a movie, and that movie is the farthest thing from CERN as I can think of right now. Now, as far as the earthquake is concerned, AT&T has many underground tunnels that's been abandoned all throughout New York and LA. And the earthquake, it could be that they were expanding one of the underground facilities. Okay, they used explosives to do that. It could set off an earthquake. Like when the Twin Towers fell, they registered a 3.1 earthquake on, in New York. So it's very possible that there was underground explosion. But we could be looking at an AI generated letter, because why would somebody start talking about Apocalypse Now? So I think we're dealing with an AI generated letter. What are your thoughts about it?
Lauren?
Well, what I meant when I said I agree with it, I did remote view the location of the earthquake. And I did sense that it was inorganic, which basically means that it was not naturally occurring, that something had triggered it, something had happened. I did sense that there was some type of portal that they were trying to open, and that entities did come out from it. I also know that a lot of benevolent beings have already taken action and have put those discarnate evil spirits back in the realm where they belong, and they are not going to be able to get out.
Well, can you confirm that the author of that letter is AI?
I could take a look at it, yes.
Can I say one thing, please?
Sure.
Now, back when I worked with John Titter, back a couple of years back, it wasn't all that long ago, CERN had a meltdown and had to shut down part of the underground tunnel. And but what they wasn't telling the public was that they had some miniature little black holes, maybe about an inch in diameter. And they had to seal that, brick up the tunnel, because you can't go into it with those little miniature black holes. So that part, when she was making a comment about the underground base, I concur with her about that. But I believe it's tied in with CERN. I believe CERN is expanding underground, and that this explosion is just, they used the they don't let a good crisis go to waste. Okay, and that's what we're seeing here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. So back to Lauren, author of the letter, and also can you remote view and see was it actually a hadron collider that they blew up, and that's what caused the earthquake? So what do you think?
Okay. Well, the letter firsthand. I don't think it was AI generated. No.
Okay. Well,
No.
could you let me take a look and see, was this person, I guess, part of the military, or maybe something totally different? Maybe a time traveler or from another dimension, alternate reality. What do you think?
It was a group of individuals, humanoids. That's what I'm picking up from it right now. When it comes to the Hadron Collider, I do sense that it's still operational right now, and that what caused the earthquake was related to that, and that entities did escape from it.
Oh, wait. So hold on. Okay. So you are confirming there is a hadron collider in New Jersey.
I believe so. Yes, it's very similar to that. Yes,
And
it's a device. Yes.
so so the explosion, was that actually from the Red Hats, or was that an experiment from that operational super collider?
It was done on purpose. That I can absolutely say for certain. Whoever was doing that knew what they were doing, and they meant to incur harm and damage and to let out entities. That was on purpose. Yes.
Okay. And what kind of entities do you think are being released? Are these, like what do they do? What are they causing? What will they do to planet Earth as they're being released?
Well, a little bit of background that I think is relevant in my case. I've been a professional psychic medium since a very, very young age, and I was utilized by a lot of people because of my capacity. In this case, it's relevant because I'm able to see into the etheric realms and then the lower dimensions as well as the higher ones. So if I happen to remote view something, a location or a target that I'm looking into, I can actually see what's coming out of it and who did it and what their intent is and that type of thing. So in this particular case, when I remote viewed that, I did see a lot of different demonic type entities, discarnate souls, very malevolent in intent, that intend to cause harm and chaos on the surface world in this dimension to humanity and as much damage as possible. That was their intention.
All right. And so these Red Hats, were they actually successful? I mean, or were they working? Maybe that's a whole ploy. They actually work for them. Like they claim they're out to get. Yeah. Are you following me?
Yes.
That they work for the bad guys. What are you picking up?
Whoever activated that device that then, opened the portal that let in the demons, I would rate them as being hostile to humanity, because anyone who's doing that, that's not a good idea whatsoever.
But the question is, wait, hold on. So the question is, did these Red Hats have anything to do with opening that portal and releasing these beings, or are they actually trying to stop it?
They weren't trying to stop it. No, I'm not sensing that. No.
So it seems like this letter was just a taunt. They're just taunting.
I think it was misinformation. Most likely seeded on purpose. Yes.
Misinformation. Wow. So these Red Hats are not really good people, of course.
No.
Just another part of their, what do you call it, psychological operations.
Most likely, yes.
Jimmy, what do you think about that? Does that sound like something that they would do?
Yes, but going back to artificial letter, the computer generated letter, you can have a human using AI to write this stuff. Okay, like if you're trying to write a paper, you can use AI, but it's definitely AI helped whoever write this paper up.
Okay.
Now, we have right now we have a lot of underground digging going on. Phil Snyder, my best friend, was murdered, and I have been down in the underground bases. He helped, he built them, and I can tell you, New York City has got it's got its share of underground bases. James, have you ever heard of Flushing Meadows State Park? It's in New York.
Yeah, I've heard about it. What about it?
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but before they built the United Nations, they had a temporary United Nations, and it was next to Flushing Meadows. Now, the history of Flushing Meadows, it used to be a swamp, and what people would do when they burn coal in factories and in their homes, they would take that coal ash and haul it to that swamp and fill it in. And but there's been a lot of UFO activity around that area. Now, they had back in the 70s an incident that happened there. They had 17 acres that had animals on it. Tigers, giraffes, wolves, birds.
So it's a zoo.
Yeah, chimpanzees. And they had one of the largest fish aquariums, all different types of fish. Now, if you watch the movie Men in Black, where Will Smith and the other man in black are sitting, they're at the park, and the elder man in black wanted out, and so Will Smith pulled out his little flashlight and it snapped, and he wiped out the memory of the agent. So what I'm trying to say is that movie has a lot of interesting things, because right about the time that movie was shot, they had a bunch of animal mutilations that happened at that park, and all the animals were dissected with no blood. All the fish were perfectly dissected. We're talking thousands of fish. And so the reason I brought that up is that we have underground alien bases. And they went in there and just, let us know that they're there. They're under New York City. And I have to agree, they don't like humans. They just tolerate us. And as long as we're able to build bases for them, they're going to keep us around. But when we get through building those underground bases, they're going to do to us what they did to those animals in the zoo.
So that was recent.
That happened back in the late 80s
or 70s, late 70s. Okay.
It happened about 2 years before Leonard Natopono abduction on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Okay.
I personally investigated that, but Bob Hopkins, he was the one that lived in that area, and he wrote a book on it. But it's rumored that John Gotti was on the bridge. He got abducted. That's a rumor. and also the prime minister of Peru was on that bridge. So the underground explosions, this definitely tied to build an underground base.
So, Lauren, could you take a look and see who abducted these animals or people out of that Flushing Meadows
Yeah,
park?
I can take a look.
And where do they go? Yeah.
It's one of the largest. Uh, it's I mean we think of cattle mutilation. This had nothing on the scale of anything prior to it. All the fish was perfectly dissected overnight. No blood, no blood in the lions' cages. The chimpanzees. They also found a dog about 2 weeks later, and it was turned inside out, the organs. So that tells me that it went through the teleporter. Something occurred, and they were using that animal, this dog, because the dog was perfectly turned inside out with no cuts on it.
I did just remote view it, and I sensed that it was malevolent extraterrestrials, in particular the Greys. The entire area was quarantined during whatever they were doing there, and it was some form of experiment that they were conducting, and that's why they did that.
Well, now south of Camp Hero, there's another base, and at the end of Long Island, and that was tied in with Camp Hero as well. In fact, Linda Napolitano, she was out there next to the river, the bay there, and she was talking the language of the Greys, and the little Greys. When I went out there, I found the footprints, so they were definitely scoping out New York City.
So what do you think they want from New York City? Just more experimentations, I guess, a bigger population to prey upon.
Well, it goes back to the Mandela effect, James, we were talking about earlier. Now, if you watch the movie Planet of the Apes, where they go down into underground base, that's that is at the Nike, the old Nike launch site, and that's where she was at. She was very close to it, and when I went through the did the teleportation experiments. I walked down the beach and saw the Statue of Liberty buried in the sand, and we did send some guys through, and so that's very real about the apes ruling.
So that was an alternate reality that you experienced?
Yes. I've been to New York City, and it's gone. There's apes everywhere.
So, like in the movies, the humans were experimenting on the apes to see if they can increase their intelligence. So,
exactly.
So, are you saying that's basically a documentary?
Yes. Well, it's loosely. So they hide it in the movies. Not everything's going to be accurate in the movie, but there's parts of it that is real, James.
Lauren, do you have any comments about that? The Planet of the Apes?
I did do a timeline analysis on the what I refer to as the alternate non-interference timeline, in the case that had the Anunnaki not illegally landed and done illegal abductions and hybridization on humans when they did, that humanity would have actually evolved to look more like the people in that movie. Their end of their evolution would have been the semblance of humans would have had them more hairy. They would have been telepathic, and they would have been, still exceptionally intelligent. So I think that movie was most likely put out by malevolent forces to try and, misdirect and misinform the public. Because if you go back in human history, back to the early hominid species, they did live in groups. They were pro-social. They were more nomadic. They were more telepathic as well. And I actually remote viewed back to before the interference occurred, and then I fast forwarded to what would have happened had there not been any illegal hybridization that the Anunnaki did, and had that bloodline, the Rh negative in particular, that was introduced when the Anunnaki did the illegal hybridization, because prior to that, that blood group was not on the planet. And humans were more hairy at the time. So humans are really, modern humans right now are not that well adapted to the environment that we live in. We only can subsist in a very narrow band of environment and climate before we either freeze to death or get too hot. So that's why I say that on the non-interference timeline, humans actually had more hair, and they were more like, apes and simian species. And that's exactly what they would have looked like. And more like Sasquatch people, actually, in fact. Again, very, very intelligent. But I think that movie was made because whoever made it are aware that that's actually what their evolutionary process would have led them occur to happen.
But Lauren, the Statue of Liberty was buried. So that means that humans did exist in that timeline, but it was in the future where these apes are now running the world. So
I think it was presented in a backwards way. In that movie, they're saying to add intelligence to the humans, and like the apes are the intelligent.
So like you're saying, in the original organic timeline, we would look more like those apes, and
Correct.
then maybe there would have been a bald type humanoid that wasn't as maybe the Anunnaki didn't advance as much, and it was like a mute species that was kind of kept as slaves or something by the apes or something. That never happened. Probably. Okay.
On the non-interference timeline, it's just the simian species that just basically evolved. They would have become spacefaring about 10,000 years ago had the interference not occurred. And they would have just been more adapted to their environment, and they would have been spacefaring. So it's actually it actually stunted human evolution and development, the fact that they were illegally hybridized, and that we're currently in, that they're illegally still in occupation on the planet right now.
So Jimmy, through Montauk, I guess they could go to alternate realities like that. Maybe they could trade with them and so on. It's I guess the multiverse is quite large, I suppose.
Well, James, when I first saw it, we were very alarmed by it. But see, when we think of genetic tinkering, we think of humans being tinkered with. It's just not humans. It's all types of animals. And these apes that they're genetically modifying, and we don't know what's all underneath the ground, particularly at Dulce, New Mexico. I've been down in that base, and it's people are being experimented on.
Oh wow! Like Thomas Costello said, there was a nightmare hall.
Yeah. Now I was there when Thomas was trying to get the tapes out, and we went out and we could not find where he buried the tapes at. And he was a security there, and he notified us. He was trying to get the tapes to us, and we never did find where he buried them at. But
Seems
if
like you
you,
need a good psychic on your team to locate it.
well, at the time, this, you know, Vietnam was going on. You know what I mean? I can't be everywhere and anywhere. But if you watch the movie Resident Evil, now Resident Evil, believe it or not, is based off of uh, DC, New Mexico, and there is a little small train that you get in and go down into the base. And but everything in that movie is it's not a total 100% accurate, but it's pretty much, you know, in the nutshell with that movie.
Do you think they even had like zombie viruses down there?
Yeah, I've
So
seen Night of the Living Dead. That happened north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Evans City Cemetery. Um, I was there when that happened. Uh, when they were able to bring back a deceased person. In
and
fact,
there was like some kind of like mixture of chemicals that was spilling into the ground from all the toxic dump.
no. Well, the first one was done with it was an electrical pulse that was able to regenerate. Um, there was a man, a black man, who had died at the VA, and his name was Ben. And th- he had heart trouble, and they put him in the hospital, the VA, the Pennsylvania VA hospital, and uh, he signed a waiver. His family signed a waiver. Is that, you know, can we experiment with him if we try to save his life? And the family said yes. Well, he died, and they didn't have the money to bury him, but his body ended up a couple of miles away from the cemetery, and he was brought back to life. I actually met Ben and talked with him, but his body cannot regenerate even after death. So I have to keep him in the freezer.
Did he try to like eat your face off to convert
No,
you? Okay.
no, but a lot of people when they do get brought back is that they they lose their mind, the shock of death. They remember uh, their death. And a lot of people don't know this, but I talked to Ben, and when Ben was in the coffin, when his niece and nephews were all around it, Ben could hear them talking, even though he was dead, because when he was reanimated, he told me that he could hear them, but after they closed the coffin, he couldn't. So they can hear. If you got something to say, you need to say it at the coffin, but they definitely can hear you. Now, once the body rots and the brain rots, you know, they can't.
And so the soul is still in that body, even if it's rotting.
Their soul will eventually leave the body, but um, the body, what happens is they'll just rot till they just fall apart. Now, the part about the drums and the chemicals, um, when the bodies fell apart, they would just put them into the chemicals. But they were experimenting trying to make a super soldier, and so they would store these kind of like you do pickles. You know, you want to preserve pickles. Well, they would dump them in those DDT, and you know, I've seen the drums. We left one of them underneath a staircase, and the next team behind us came in about 2 years later, and they found them, but we did a show on it. Maybe you get Laura to view the show, James. I don't want to spend too much time on it because we got a lot to cover tonight.
Okay, wow. So we got over that. So let's see here. How about we can do? Let's go. I think the last thing we can talk about CERN, and then we can move on to the NASA shooting up rockets. Why are so many Mandela effects occurring every time they turn CERN on? How about we start with how about you, Lauren? Let's hear you. What do you think that is about?
Well, turning on a machine like that actually causes a dimensional rift and kind of a fracture to occur. And it actually has a bleed over effect into other parallel universes, and it alters what happens in the past and in the future. So that's why people experience having different memories and, things being different. That's because when you're opening a portal to a lower dimension like that, it's actually going to impact the physical reality of the dimension above it. And it's actually going to have a bleed through effect, which is why reality is absolutely shifting because they've done that with the portal, that they've opened that. So it's actually having a very negative effect on the physical reality in this dimension.
What about you, Jimmy? What do you think? Why do you think Mandela effects occur with the opening of CERN portals?
I would have to concur. What she said is very true. It's kind of like when I was at Camp Hero, we had a technician that was reading a book about the wreck of the Titan. And it was about a ship that hit an iceberg and sunk. And the book came out like 17 years prior to 1912. But it was an old book. And the supervisor said, "What are you reading there?" And he says, "I'm reading a book about a ship that hit an iceberg." And then the guy paused and said, my grandfather had money in that ship. And the supervisor said, "What cargo were they hauling? Did they have a safe?" And the technician said, "I don't know, but I can look into it." So 2-3 weeks pass, I'm back down at Camp Hero, and he brings a printout of the inventory that was in the ship. What insurance paid off. And when they found out what was in that safe, they said, "Well, look, we're going to do a time jump. We're running low on money, and the ship's what we want to do is get into the safes and get the money out." See, back then, people didn't have credit cards. When you traveled with your money. And so when we did the time jump onto the ship, we sent some of our females down into the dance hall, and of course I was lugging a torch in there, to the safes, and we cut the safes open
because the lights were off when you
No, the lights were still on when we opened the safe up.
So why were you carrying a torch?
To cut the safe open.
Oh, I see. Okay, so
to get the Hope diamond.
Okay, yes.
Get the Hope diamond out.
But surely there would have been security around you. Like, nope, you can't, guys. Definitely not supposed to do this. So
well, they were taken care of. They were neutralized. But what had happened? That vessel had a collision in port about 2 years prior, and they took it hit the back side of the ship, and it broke one of the I-beams in it, and they riveted it back, but the vibration from the motor would knock the rivets out. So it was decided to shuttle. They were going to scuttle the ship and make it look like it was an accident. But what happened was we had a guy that went down there, and there was a valve in the bottom of the ship about the size of a fire hydrant, and he opened it up purposely to shuttle the ship. And they were going to get the California to pull up alongside and get everybody off, but Montauk lost power. They blew a tube or a fuse, and by the time that they got Montauk back on, 2 hours later, the ship is sunk.
So you sunk with it, with the treasure?
No, we got the treasure off. We were teleported off as the ship was starting to tilt. I got off of it just in time. We had like about 5 or 6 duffel bags full of valuables, plus the Hope Diamond. And when I got back at Camp Hero, there was, 60 or so years have passed, 70 or so years have passed. And it's just mind-boggling because the ship was not supposed to sink. And that's what kind of turned me against the program, that innocent people drowned. And so that was my turning point. But it wasn't done on intention. It just...
Well, but I mean, if you're outside of time, first of all, okay, what? I forgot the name of the ship that you said they were going to send another ship to rescue everybody. So
it was a California, but but it ended up the Carpathia's what came to the rescue. The California, the captain went to sleep. Now, actually, it's not the Titanic; it's the Olympic that sunk. And a lot of people, the Titanic conspiracies, well, they say, well, the Olympic was painted with red, and the Titanic. No, I take that back. The Titanic had red primer. No, the Titanic had black primer, and the Olympic, well, it was just backwards. One ship had red primer and the other one had black primer. But when they went down to the Titanic, it had black primer, and it's supposed to have red primer. So you got a lot of people, saying, well, the two ships had different primers, but that's not the primer of the metal they pulled up. So the Titanic never sunk. It was just renamed. The Olympic was just renamed. It was the Olympic that sunk. Titanic never did.
And do you know why they switched the names?
Because the White Star Line owned both ships, and when the collision occurred in port and damaged the I-beams, the insurance wouldn't pay off, and the ship it couldn't. Every time they were rivet the I-beams back in place, the vibration of the motor would break the rivets. So what they did was just change the names of the ships, and did a switch in port. There is some historical evidence on that, but I'm sure that you can go to a Titanic conspiracy and pull all of it up.
Well, what about the Hope Diamond?
That was recovered.
Okay, and they say that's cursed. Is that true?
What's that?
Was the Hope Diamond actually cursed?
No. Well, it's a good. that's a good question because we had a ship that sunk. That Hope Diamond, some prince out of Saudi Arabia bought it. It's in a private collection right now.
Interesting. Wow. And that with those assets were being used to fund Montauk.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you something else that how Montauk was funded. But back in World War II, the Germans sealed off a train full of gold and valuable paintings in a tunnel. And Patton found out about it. And Patton was actually murdered because of that. But when I was at Camp Hero, what they did, they found that that train. So what they took a ship called the Baldwin that was being decommissioned. It was going to be brought to scrapyard. So what they did, they loaded that ship up with that gold from that train, and they got that ship right off the edge of the lighthouse at Montauk, and the ship sank right there before they could get the gold off. So what happened was, it's like 1962, I think it sunk. So they had to get some divers out there and offload the gold, while the ship was on the bottom. And then they got a crane ship, and they had to lift it up. They put some airbags in it, and they lift that ship up, and from there they brought it to the scrap yard and scrapped it. But one of the divers got between the ship and the winch, and he got killed. But that was the USS Baldwin that the gold was loaded on and stuck back to Camp Hero. And I think there was something like about $8 or $10 billion that was on that train.
Oh my God. Wow. So I thought Patton was murdered. Well, what I heard was that he wanted to run for president.
No, well, I'm pretty sure that might have been in his back of his mind, but
they would have seen it through the looking glass. They would say, "Oh no, not," because it probably would have affected all their projects. So why didn't they? So why were they so opposed to Patton?
He was going to go public with finding the train, and because it was a black ops operation, they killed him. That wreck was staged, just like Princess Diana's wreck was staged.
What do you think, Lauren? Do you think there's more to the story? The more reason just the gold and maybe one from president? Maybe there's something else. Maybe what do you think?
I could definitely take a look.
And supposedly, his son was adopted by the Trump family, so that became our president. It's actually Pat.
Okay, let me just see.
Can you confirm that? Or look.
Most likely, yes.
So most likely was that Trump is related to Patton?
I would say so, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so can you look and see what were some of the reasons why they wanted to take Patton out? I mean, we already know about the gold, right? President, anything else?
Had kind of a different agenda, I'm picking up too, and the wherewithal, the means, and the resources, and most likely connections to be problematic to whoever was going to oppose him. Yes, that's what I think.
Maybe through Majestic, he was in opposition to their agenda.
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Well, Jimmy, any questions?
I think if President Eisenhower was a general, so if Eisenhower could do it, why couldn't Patton be a president? So there may have been some ambition there to run for public office. But I do know that he was murdered because of the goad. And I was there at Camp Hero when they sent the divers out to the USS Baldwin to get the goad off that had been found in that mountain.
Jimmy, so if they have time travel, couldn't they just go back in time and stop the Titanic / Olympic from going out of port and saving the lives of all those people?
I believe they can, but we have it's like a cookie on the computer that keeps popping back up. And we need to make contact. I would need to make contact with Area 51, Creech Air Force Base, or Nellis, probably Creech Air Force Base, and try to get one of the extraterrestrials to give us some assistance. But we never should have started tinkering with time. And I wasn't the first one that tinkered with it. But once I got involved in it, I learned that it's best not to tinker. It's best to observe. But we definitely had a split at Camp Hero. We had some guys that wanted to just learn and prevent tragedies. Then we had other guys that were ambitious, that were in it for political reasons. And none of your elected presidents have all your presidents are picked. It may seem like you have an election, but it's all staged.
What do you think about that, Lauren? All presidents selected?
Yes. I just want to comment on the time travel technology. Usually when a species that's spacefaring has reached a high level of spiritual evolution, they not only are able to travel in space, but also time. And they do that for learning and evolutionary purpose. However, when that type of technology falls into malevolent hands, and they start using it to control evolution and consciousness and just get their own way, that's when there's ruptures in the space-time continuum, there's Mandela effects, there's portals to lower astral realms that are opened up, and it actually harms the rest of the multiverse. So that's what happens when that technology falls into the wrong hands.
Seems like we need some time cops out there. Do you think you think there might be some time cops from a time corporation?
I do know that they are out there. However, they're policing their own timeline that they want to see manifested, in anything or anyone that opposes that agenda that they have. They go and stop them. So I'm under the impression that there are time cops, yes, but they're monitoring for ripples and nexus points that don't go along with their agenda, and then they try and squash those events so that they don't become event horizons on the timelines that they never want to see manifested.
Right, like in the new Loki show, where they talk about saving the space-time continuum. So, what do you think, Jimmy? Do you think there's an organization called Time Corp, and have you ever encountered them? Because we had one guest on the show said that whenever like different time travel groups all wanted to get a hold of one thing, usually Time Corp wins. So, what any comments?
Well, first of all, the show Loopers is very true. Whoever wrote the script had some inside knowledge. So the movie Loopers is very, very real. Now, as far as, and I'm going to disagree with Lorian on one thing. I met Obama while he was still in diapers. And I had one of the M.I.Bs tell me, he says, "You know what you're looking at there?" And I asked him, I said, "What?" He said, he's going to be a president one day. So they knew I knew that back when he was in diapers. I knew his mother, Stanley Ann. I knew his granddaddy.
So is he a natural born citizen?
No, he's from Kenya. His Frank Davis is his daddy. Um, and so he was picked. He was handpicked. What was the other part of your question, James?
Well, if he's not a natural born citizen, is he?
No, I'm talking about the original question.
Oh, I don't know. I'm too tired. Even maybe Lauren might remember. Lauren, why don't you?
If all the presidents were selected.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy.
I was saying yes.
They probably would have some more. They probably know like the children. You know, they're still following around even today. Our future presidents, right,
Well,
Jimmy?
I do think that another timeline did interfere with Trump now, but all the past presidents that was planned that was planned here. Now, whoever interfered with Trump came from another timeline. Now, Trump's uncle, he went into Nikola Tesla's apartment and got the paperwork. And I do know that Tesla, and I've met Tesla, and Tesla definitely worked on the Eldridge.
So Yolanda King, Ann Coulter, Alex Jones. This is from Michael McIntosh. Michael McIntosh in 2028. Andrew Basaggio in 2036. Arnold Schwarzenegger in 2044. Apparently, he was born in the United States when we occupied Germany. So let's see here. We have. Hold on, guys. I got so many windows open. Yeah. Okay. Well, so what do you think about that? Surely, do any of those names ring a bell? Like, you think any of those people will be our future president?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, sure. What do you think?
James, I can only tell you up to the point that, it all fell apart at Camp Hero now. We're going to have an event in the future where nuclear missiles are going to go off. And a lot of people are going to die. And the population of Earth is going to get down to as low as 145 million. And it stabilizes about at that level. Then it builds back up to about 5 million. So there's not going to be a United States in the future. There's not going to be China or Russia. No superpowers are going to survive this.
So I know. Thank you for sharing that, Jimmy. I know we've talked about it before. So even like Al Bielek, he said that when he went to the future, 800 years in the future, right? He went into historical archives and he found out that there was some kind of virus that caused women to become sterile in the late 1990s, and then the world population dropped off. So it didn't look like there was any kind of nuclear war in that particular scenario. So maybe that's one of those cookies in Montauk where they're always trying to reset things. So, I mean, could it be possible? How about let's ask the question to Lauren. So looking down the multiverse, I know, of course, Jimmy, you've been in the future from the early 1980s when you were there at Montauk with Hillary Clinton and she was witnessing the Eldridge return back in 84, right? So do you think, was that 83? These numbers right. So go ahead, Lauren. What do you think? Can we change the future? Or is it set in stone?
Well, what we're seeing right now is a timeline and temporal war. There's a lot of different malevolent extraterrestrial species that are vying for position on the planet. Their ultimate goal is to rule openly on the surface, whereas like humanity is enslaved under mind control. I think that the malevolent extraterrestrials absolutely do want a nuclear global war, in which case it'll harm the population. It'll make the surface world completely unlivable and more hospitable to them. I also do know as well that they've been trying to covertly destroy human relationships and the natural process of reproduction by pitting men and women against one another, by encouraging people to have children, by inorganic means, that type of thing. And it's all part of the same agenda and program, because this is actually calls into effect the Galactic Law and Protocol, which basically states that a planet that doesn't have a native species anymore, that is no longer in occupancy, it opens up for other extraterrestrial races to come in and have ownership and property rights. So that's also why these malevolent ETs are not only utilizing humanity for illegal hybridization, the galactic slave trade, trying to shorten the human lifespan, also to control reproduction. Their ultimate goal is property and territory rights, because a lot of these malevolent extraterrestrials are into conquest and territory, and they absolutely want the planet for themselves. And part of the scenario, the global scenario that they want to see happen, is some type of nuclear exchange, so that the human population will have to be forced underground.
Okay. And what about so do you likely see I know you say nuclear, so does that mean is it an EMP type scenario, maybe a high altitude nuclear explosion that blows out all the electrical grid, or what do you think is going to happen?
I do foresee that there is a high probability of a attack on the U.S. That's very imminent. It's going to be like a high altitude EMP that they intend to knock out communications, and there's probably going to be service disruptions, no internet, that will most likely they'll want to bring in some type of quarantine. So they're really trying to weaken the United States right now. Absolutely, in every way, shape, and form possible.
And so when that particular scenario happens, what's going to happen with so we have, I know, Jimmy, we were talking about this. How many illegal people, I wouldn't even call them citizens, or just illegal. So how many are there in the United States now, Jimmy?
It's estimated 15% of the population.
Wow.
Now, that's just an estimate. It's still going on. So it could be more than that as we get closer to the election. Now, when I worked with John Tudor, there was social unrest in the southwest United States. And
from the invasion?
Yeah, just we're bickering amongst ourselves. And what'll happen is, once we go to fight amongst ourselves, the Russians, nobody has control of the nuclear weapons. So North Korea is going to fire the missile off first. One of the missiles is going to get past us. It's going to hit Canada, where the tar sands are at. And once those tar sands get to burning, you can't put them out. And so you have burning radioactive oil that gets up in the stratosphere. Okay, now when that burning radioactive oil gets up in the stratosphere, it's going to come down all across the world. And the filters, the air mask that you wear, cannot filter out oil, and they're going to clog up. So just because you wear a respirator or you have underground base, that underground base, they have to have a pipe that comes up to suck down fresh air. And so that's going to get, contaminated.
So they're not going to be able to hide underground.
Well, yes and no. I mean, submarines can make their own air, but not all those bases can do that. I mean, The submarines got seawater they can use. What do you do if you're in a desert, in the West United States where there's very little water? See, basically, once you get those people in the base, it's just like a feeding pen for these reptilians. There's a lot of people that are being abducted right now, coming across the border. Every year you have 100,000 people that come up missing. Every year, 100,000. Now, they do find people, but every year, 100,000. Now, that's just in the United States. How many are coming up missing in South America or in Africa or in Europe? So we have no actual figures of where these people are going.
And some of these, it seems like these people already have plans of where they're supposed to be to maybe how about you, Lauren? You want to comment about that? What do you think these illegals are doing?
Let me finish.
Oh, okay, Jimmy.
There's these people being brought down to those underground bases as a food source. Go ahead.
Well, it's of my opinion that there are certain individuals that are being positioned in the United States, and it's to formulate an attack on American soil. And I believe that some of them are reptilian hybrids, and there's different competing groups that represent the different competing extraterrestrial races that want dominance over the planet. So basically, to paint a greater picture, is we have a bunch of malevolent extraterrestrial galactic slave traders that are currently in illegal occupation on a planet that was terraformed and is, in actuality, the property of the Galactic Federation, and humanity are under their protection. And they are actually trying to take down the country that poses the greatest threat to their agenda, which is why they're attacking the United States so much. So that's why they're trying to dismantle the infrastructure. They're trying to cause social unrest. They're trying to pit, human men and women against one another. There's inflation, so there's all these problems on top of the fact that there is nanos that are being released into the air via the chemtrails, and it's in the food and the water and the air supply that are actually getting inside people's bodies, and they are actually mind controlling people covertly right now in order to control human consciousness and make people more docile, apathetic, depressed. And it's actually being done covertly, and a lot of people are not aware of these things, and it's all part of a greater agenda to weaken humanity and try and take over.
And do you see something happening with this eclipse coming up tomorrow? For hopefully, in the future, people are watching this years now, like, oh, well, it's not, don't worry, but no big deal, it all blew over. But maybe that's the case. So tell us, what do you think is going to happen? Do you see a virus or something, or nanos?
Well, the potential for a false flag is the threat is extraordinarily high. So I would recommend that anyone listening to this broadcast take heed and just be prepared to have extra food and water at home, to have basically camping gear, a first aid kit, that type of thing, and to just stay very, very calm and just be aware that the potential for some type of false flag event is extraordinarily high. To be extraordinarily cautious if they're going to decide to travel around those dates. That's also to be, people should be aware of that. Now, when it comes to what I actually foresee happening, I can tell you what they were planning on, like what type of scenario and type of, event that they wanted was some type of blackout where they would quarantine most of the United States, that there would be communication issues, that the internet would go down, that no one would have access to, their banking or that type of thing, that they could, that the National Guard would be called in, and that some type of bioweapon that is currently dormant inside of people that are vaccinated would be unleashed, and it would cause some type of reaction like the Marburg virus, because as I said, like the Anunnaki that are part of this whole greater agenda are into enslaving humanity and traumatizing everybody. And they wanted it to be some type of blood sacrifice So hence, Marburg is an illness in which a person has hemorrhagic fever and they bleed from every orifice, and it's actually quite horrible. At the same time that they wanted to open the portal and unleash the demons. So it kind of paints like a very nightmarish picture that was being done on purpose. The fact that the epicenter, they were intending for it to be in Texas, because for them, they represent a very strong population who are very righteous, who, are very moral, and they're very, very strong people. So are Americans. So I'm talking in general, they represent liberty and freedom. So that's why there's so many attacks going on right now. Now, what I foresee happening, what's actually going to happen, because so many prayers and good intentions were actually put against those malevolent agendas. For instance, that the portal wouldn't open, the portal to hell wouldn't open. All of the malevolent entities would actually be teleported to another universe and actually shut somewhere in the lower astral realm. So nothing's going to be unleashed. On top of the fact that whatever bioweapon that they would release, that it wouldn't work, and that those people that were innocent and being targeted are going to be okay. So that's what I foresee happening. It's hopefully going to be, a non-event. It's just going to be like a dead for the bad guys, and that we can continue moving forward on very positive timelines.
Wow, thank you. Hold on your thoughts, Jimmy. Hold on. This was recorded back in 2021. So this was from a 6-year-old child that a friend of mine had contact with, who was very gifted. So this boy said that, let me go on here. He said, Biden isn't the president, neither is Trump. He said the Andromedans are running America and Trump is just an actor. They are doing the whole Earth Alliance thing. He said a third strand of COVID is coming soon, a new version of avian flu coming out of Ethiopia, being transported by someone from Ethiopia. It's brought to us and developed at Fort Detrick. There was a shooting at Fort Detrick, and that shooter was Ethiopian. South Korea has the antidote. Cure is solution is injection to the spinal cord. Name of the virus is project number PPF5 something. 55 million people are going to die from the vaccine of this flu will die in the USA. I'm not sure if that was the first. I guess that was the first COVID one. 55 million are supposed to die. So I think what I said, only like 2 or 3 million have died so far. And there will be a third round of shots. People will get the third shot are dead. The CDC calls them the living dead, death rattle, death, phlegm, cough. There's also fires in the ocean. They're shooting water in the fires to try to put them out. They can't because they opened up portals to hell. People are attacking others on airplanes. That's actually kind of interesting. Remember that girl, that woman that says that person isn't real? Does anybody remember that, Lauren?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever remote view that? What does she actually see?
I could remote view it. She probably saw an alien, some type of malevolent extraterrestrial. If I had to guess, I could definitely take a look. Most likely some type of shapeshifter that she had that type of, right? Yeah, most likely.
Because the dimensional veil is thinning. So here's a picture right here. The ocean's on fire. Gas leak from underground pipelines. Can you remote view into that fire? Is that actually from a natural gas leak that caught on fire, or is that something even more?
It's some type of other device that's opening another portal. Mm-hmm. So
that's probably like a hell realm.
It's not organic. Yeah, some lower astral realm. It's very chaotic in those realms. It's very dense, very heavy, and anytime that there's a portal aperture that's opened that links it to our world, it actually causes a great deal of physical damage to our dimension as well.
Interesting. Well, you can see it's right near like some kind of oil rig. I guess maybe they were conducting an experiment there that went wrong, possibly. Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, we'll just move on then. Okay.
It's done on purpose.
Okay. After the third vaccine, let's see here. They will have a patent number for okay. Hold on a second. A third wave will be called PF something. It'll be delivered by CRISPR. Something about the Zimbabwe notes. Probably should get some. Okay. Here's another one. They're going to use dirty bombs and briefcases on trailers. China wants access to Wall Street and Silicon Valley. Dirty bombs will start when they release the avian flu. New York City is going to be nuked. California, third city, either DC or Detroit. China wants access to. I already said that. Okay, did say that. Okay, that's all I found that one. Anybody want to comment about that?
There's certainly targets that, the malevolent forces that are currently in the United States. They're most likely covert sleeper cells, or just lying in wait. That I did do some research on it recently, and that they would be targeting critical infrastructure. They would be targeting power stations, potentially military bases as well, and trying to just cause more damage. Also, any types of factories and also food processing plants, because they're trying to just cut off the United States from the rest of the world and from getting any aid, to just kind of send them back into the dark ages. That's what they're intending.
Thank you. How about Jimmy? What do you think? Do you think New York City will be a thriving, rebuilt and a thriving place when you were in the future?
No.
What does it look like?
It's just like in the movie Planet of the Apes. That's what I saw.
Leveled on the ground.
Yeah. And the old Nike base is where they enter at on Long Island.
Okay. Well, let's do this. This is the last thing on our notes, and I guess we could probably call it a night if you want to. NASA to launch sounding rockets into moon shadow during the solar eclipse. So, what do you think about this? What are they? Here's a conceptual animation. Well, obviously that's not working. Here's another animation. So, tell us, what do you think is going on here? What is this some kind of scientific experiment? The NASA is just doing some humanitarian work for us, or is there another agenda behind all this?
I think it's an ode to the crazy alien people that they really like and worship, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some type of payload within them that probably has some kind of weapon, like bioweapon or that type of thing, that they're going to release in the upper atmosphere that takes a few days to incubate, which will then probably cause people to not feel so great. I wouldn't be surprised, because the people that are launching those rockets, they work very closely with the malevolent extraterrestrial groups, and they like to time things with different astronomical events, and they're all very religious about it and just very crazy about it, and that's most likely their real agenda and what they're going to do.
And they want us to bleed.
Yes. So
we have the red heifer, right? The Marburg virus, which causes you to bleed, right? To have the death rattle cough. What else? Any other connections of anything else bleeding?
I also picked up that whatever bioweapon pathogen that is going to be released is going to mimic some type of death virus, like a flesh-eating disease, that they intend to use, and it's a particular blood group as well that they're targeting in the United States as well. That I think that they're targeting, particularly the Rh negatives, and that's because it's very much a blood war with the Anunnaki.
Oh, they're going to kill them off.
They want them to suffer, and when I say the Anunnaki actually want a certain group to suffer, because currently they're at war. There's a few malevolent extraterrestrial groups that are currently vying for position, and they're aligned with other world governments, and they're all trying to take over territory, and they're just basically taking shots at one another, and humanity, unfortunately, are the innocent victims that are just kind of in the middle of everything. So I would highly recommend that, again, people take heed and just take care of themselves and have first aid kit, no first aid as well, and to just be very cautious and be prepared.
Thank you. All right, Jimmy, what do you think? NASA shooting off rockets. I mean, obviously, they don't even need to do that. They could just deliver the payload right out of their craft, right out of Area 51. So tell us, what do you think that's about?
Well, there's still a lot of questions about the moon that we don't know about. Um, the rockets that are being shot there, we don't really know what's underneath the soil of the moon. It's hollow. I mean, it rings like a bell. Uh, there are those that believe it's artificial craft. You know, it's hollow, like a Death Star. So the rockets, you know, they're going to explode and you know, send shock waves through the planet, and that's going to give a measurement, just like you map the sea floor. You know, that's what they're trying to do. If there's, you know, that's a purpose of it. But you know, you got the Chinese wanting to build a moon base there.
Well, supposedly all the territory on the moon is already claimed by the Dracos. So, like the Germans, in order to get that treaty, they had to agree to sell off some of their best, beautiful women every year, and they found out what they were doing with those women. It wasn't good. So, yeah, the price they probably have to pay is sell out the rest of humanity, probably.
Well, you know, as far as we know, we already have a base on the moon. It's in one of the dome cities, but some type of event occurred, and it cracked all the domes. There's about 9 domes on that I know of, and one they were able to repair it. But the problem is that there's a lot of radiation even underneath the dome, and there's a lot of bacteria inside that dome.
Okay, and so obviously, so they didn't repair the other domes because people died. Too many people were dying.
There weren't people that were in the domes, James. They were extra tall grays.
Oh,
Now the when I was on the moon, you know, going into the spacecraft, and you know, where E.B. Mona Lisa was recovered, that spacecraft is at least 4 miles long. But there's also 2 other smaller triangular spacecraft that are in the general area, and so I think, like I said, there's a lot of things we don't know about the moon, but we have a base on the moon right now. So it might be, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on up there. There's a lot of alien ruins up on the moon. William Rutledge tried to, you know, tell the public.
all right. Well, I'll just do this real quick. I know nothing's really real quick on here, but do you guys see that? The Apollo 20. Oh wait, am I muted?
No, I
Oh,
see.
okay. So yeah, so is that you, Jimmy, holding the camera?
No, I was actually with Apollo 21, and Apollo 21, I came down on the limb, and just as she was laying there is when I walked in the door. Now, what I was going to say was the EB, she's not dead and she's not alive. I put my hand on her forehead where she's got her third eye, and I was able to communicate with her. And she has two jobs. She's a flight pilot, but she's also the nurse.
Well, not anymore, I guess. So why did her crew abandon her?
They didn't abandon. There was a meteor shower that the spacecraft went through, and right about 15, 20 feet past the cockpit is where some of the meteorites went through, and it damaged some of the hydraulic system on the craft. There's a hole up. There's at least one hole the size of a basketball, and I believe that decompressurized the craft. They lost consciousness, and they crashed. Now, there were some of the crew members that were able to get their helmets on. She didn't have time to get her helmet on. Okay, and you have to remember, the moon is incredibly cold. So she's perfectly preserved. She's got a fluid in her that is kind of clear, but it's got a yellow tint to it. But you can if you put your hand on her cheek, it's not hard. It's soft. You know what I mean? But you have to warm her up. But I was able to communicate with her and channel her. And there's 4 other crew members that did get out and get their helmets. And they went off towards some ridge, but I would believe they eventually died because they had no oxygen. I believe her to be Japanese, because there was a craft. There was a strange oriental woman that came out of the sea back in the late 1800s that the Japanese fishermen, have talked about. And but the plants that I found on that craft were from Earth. And they had some little black triangular boxes that made out of some type of ceramic was in there.
It's interesting that her eyebrows is so high compared to, I guess, humans, and her mouth, her lips are wide. So,
well, we're looking at the next step of human evolution. She's definitely, now the geologist, when we examined the wreck, he said it had been there 1.2 billion years, but when I communicated with EB, it's more like 40,000 years is what she told me. Now, I believe the crater is 1.2 billion years old, and then when the spacecraft skidded in there, it just stirred it up. So I do believe the crater's 1.2 billion years old, but I disagree with the geologists. I say that the craft's been there 40,000 years, or since our last ice age.
Did they ever tell you? Did she tell you why they left her behind?
She was she had already she was injured. Okay. They lost the compression in the craft. She didn't have her helmet on. There was nothing that they could do for her. She is the nurse. They're not trained in that. Okay. She's a pilot. See, everybody has a dual. They're trained to have 2 jobs, but they do one job. She's cross-trained as the nurse,
Okay.
But she's a pilot, is what
Jimmy.
she really is.
Jimmy, let me because I know we've been at this for a while. Lauren, do you have the energy to just say one or two things? You want to try to communicate with that EBE and ask if she has a message for Jimmy? Just I don't want to like push you because I know we've been here for a while. So let's just
I had a thing to say as well at the end if it is possible.
Sure.
I was tuning into her when I was seeing the footage. I do think it's real and it's true. I was picking up that she was in distress, and I was picking up also that she was some type of scientist as well. So that's what else would you like to know?
Does she have a message for Jimmy?
I see. That she would like to be with her people. It's their custom and culture to be with their people when they pass away. It's very, very important for most extraterrestrial species that their bodies are returned to their homeworld so that they can actually be with their ancestors, and they can reincarnate on the homeworld that they belong on because they have an affinity with that race. So that's what she would like to say.
Well, let her know that if I return to Area 51, that I'm going to make good, and I'm going to ask that she be transported back to her home planet. But I first have to figure out how to get back to Creech Air Force Base, and let her know that about the butterflies and the flowers, that I know she likes to smell flowers, and that, about the butterflies she likes, and that I have been communicating with her as young as I was 6 years old. And I was around 19 when I found her. And I'm not going to let her stay on Earth. If it's up to me, I'm going to request that she be brought home. That's my promise to her.
Lauren,
communicate that to her now, if you would, please.
She does appreciate that. She did hear you, so she does appreciate that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I'm tired. I can't even remember what I was going to ask. So I guess it's all good. No, I remember. Why did EBE contact Jimmy as early as the age of 6? Do those two have like a connection with each other, like soul family or lifetimes or what?
I'm sensing that the being in question sensed that they could actually get help from him, which is most likely why they made contact. Different extraterrestrials that have been displaced on other planets, not just on this planet, but in others, tend to approach other life forms that they think will be responsive and compassionate to their plight, which is most likely why that being approached him.
Okay.
I had to name her Mona Lisa because we don't have our alphabet. Their alphabet is different from our alphabet, and I could not pronounce her name. So I saw a picture of Mona Lisa when I was a little boy. So I just gave her that name. But she has, when I channeled her, she had me going around picking up dragonflies and butterflies and sniffing flowers for her, She's very curious about wildlife, flowers, and such.
All right. Okay, guys. Shall we call it? Oh, wait, Lauren, you have another final message?
Yes. James, I wanted to thank you publicly for always reporting on difficult topics in service to humanity, and, bringing to light potential threats, and being so positive. And thanks for inviting me. And I wanted to also say to anyone that's listening to the broadcast, humanity is very capable of very positive, benevolent timelines. These malevolent extraterrestrials have no claims to this planet or humanity. And at the end of the day, they actually do really fear humanity and their potential. So I would encourage humanity as a collective to stand together against the malevolent extraterrestrial threat and get them off the planet and reclaim our sovereignty.
Thank you for that. How about you, Jimmy? Final message?
If anybody wants to contact me, just get a hold of James Rink. And I'm looking for a corporate sponsor. I'm a former M.I.B, Men in Black. And I guess the best thing for me to do is come out of retirement, because we do have some problems occurring, and I have no choice now but to go back to being M.I.B.
Do you remember using those little neuralizers?
James, I've done it all. I was one of the youngest M.I.Bs in the history. And it's just not E.B. Mona Lisa that's reached out. I've had the little Grays to reach out to me when the wreckage of 1947 happened, you know. And I've seen so many different types of different extraterrestrials that nothing excites me anymore. And if any extraterrestrial needs help, just, let me know, and I'll do what I can do. But I gave E.B. Mona Lisa my word, and if I return, I will make good that she's reunited, and I will make good that some of the victims of the Roswell crash, that their return as well to their loved ones.
Guys, I got these. Everybody, freeze. You didn't hear any of this today. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I heard it.
All right. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much. Let's all hold out positive intention. I think tomorrow, I guess it'll be the 8th, right? So it will be a great day, and we'll have we'll put out intention. We'll all have a really positive timeline. So everybody, if you want to learn more about the work I do, you can go to neologicaltech.com and purchase a copy of my book over here, Lone Wolf. And so there's like 300 pages now. I can't remember, 400 pages, something, whatever it is, of SSP content. And you can learn about super soldiers, and also get yourself a meditation cube to help you relax. You put that on your lap, and you can meditate about 30 minutes a day. And you can use that to help you out with memory recalls. I'm going to Los Angeles this week to speak at the Alien event. So the link is in the description if you want to come hear me speak. I'm also going to be speaking at the Spruce Pine Alien Festival here in North Carolina. So that's in June. And everybody, be sure to get a ticket to the first ever Super Soldier Talk conference. It's just really just like a one day gathering, but it's going to be jam-packed full of fun. And we got 7 speakers, and we're also going to have like a Super Soldier, we're going to have a gathering that afternoon afterward on the beach. We're going to have some music. I've got a mixed tape that I'm working on. And then there's the Day of Being event. And we also have, which is free day, so all on the beach, right, in Florida, St. Pete. And then we're going to have a fun Super Soldier Talk water park event party too on that Sunday afterwards. So you should join me. Click on the link below and come on out. So that's it, I guess, everybody, right? Good night. Goodbye. We wish you love and light wherever you are. And until next time. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.